where situation. Okay. All right. And okay, one more thing before we get to the more executive thing on the cost approach. We're almost there. Okay, so on the cost approach, we've got basically a number of things that can influence the value of a property. And these are sort of conceptual things, but I'm going to go through and explain each one real briefly. We've got physical, functional, and external or economic depreciation. Okay? Physical depreciation, functional, basically obsolescence, and basically external or economic depreciation. Now, the first one, like what we're basically saying here with the cost approach is, it's easy to apply the cost approach whenever you have a brand new building, because you just simply say, what my construction cost plus my land cost, there's my cost approach value. That's simple. But what if the building is 10 years old, or 15 years old, or 30 years old, and hasn't been substantially updated over that time period? You're going to have evidence of probably all three of these things happening. The first one, physical, is relatively simple. You know, the wear and tear of people occupying that property or using that property, or even exposure to the elements of rain and storms and that sort of thing over a period of time, obviously is going to physically deteriorate and depreciate the property. Okay, and so one of the things you're going to have to do is make adjustments for certain elements of the property to be devalued as a result of that deterioration. Does that make sense? Okay. Functional obsolescence is whenever maybe the way in which we live, the way in which we work, or the way in which things are just simply done change over time to where you maybe no longer need something that was in place within a property several years ago, or you need something new within a property that you did not need several years ago. An example of this would be like the Americans with Disabilities Act, okay, that came around in the early 90s. What did it do? All of a sudden, with virtually all publicly accessible properties, you now have to make those properties accessible for a wider variety of people. So things had to change. You had to widen doorways. You had to increase the size of bathrooms. You had to increase the width of stairwells. You had to do a whole number of things to buildings that in some cases you really couldn't do because of maybe physical limitations of the building that would then make them sort of functionally obsolete or so cost prohibitive that it was just impossible, or you would destroy the integrity of the building in some way. And so it's a reason why that in some cases, especially with older buildings, you might see an elevator attached to the exterior of the building as kind of an add-on, because prior to that particular act, they didn't have to have an elevator. Now they do. Okay, does that make sense? So that's kind of one example of kind of a functional sort of change or obsolescence. The third, external or economic, this is kind of the building within its surroundings, okay, and how things have changed. In other words, going from what was a thriving economic neighborhood to being all of a sudden, a deteriorated, economically depressed, sort of area. All right. Well, the building itself may be brand new, but as a result of basically this economic change that's occurred, that has impacted the value. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So just be aware of those three. Okay. Now then, finally, the big final topic, and then time for the quiz. Okay. mortgage equity calculations. All right? Capitalization. Okay, what this is basically where you have the income, kind of the expenses, your debt. It's a lot like using the financial feasibility model, sort of simple financial feasibility model, to come up with a value for a property with a handful of characteristics. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through an example, okay? Take the notes, and then once this is over, we'll do the quiz, and then we're done. Okay. Okay, so the basic formula for this is that the present value of the property is equal to basically the mortgage of the property, the value of the mortgage of the property, plus the equity associated with the property. All right, so you've got these two components that are kind of going to be isolated but then added together. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take a look at the property and you're going to see, all right, what sort of net operating income is the property generating? All right, so in this particular example, let's say they're generating $50,000 a year in net operating income. All right, you're going to take that and you're going to say, all right, we have a debt coverage ratio of 1.2, so a debt coverage ratio of 1.20, all right? So if we take that, and remember the calculation that we do there, 50,000 divided by 1.2, that means we are going to be left with $41,666.67 as our what? Our annual debt service. Okay? Everybody with me so far? Okay? Now, once we've got that, then we're going to have to make some assumptions about the loan that we're going to obtain. So let's say that we get a 20-year mortgage. Okay? And this is going to be on a monthly basis. All right, so let me go ahead and let's start out here. So 12 payments per year, 20-year loan. But what we're going to do is we're going to take that $41,666.67. We need to divide it by 12 to give us monthly payments. Okay, so whatever that amount is, we're going to put in as our monthly payment. That monthly payment is going to be $34.72.22. Okay, everybody still with me? Okay, and then we're going to assume an 11% interest rate. All right, so based on that, the present value of our mortgage is going to be equal to, let's see, 12 payments per year, 20 years, $34.72.24 as our payment amount, 11% interest rate, solve the present value. So the present value of our mortgage is $336,395.96. So that is that piece. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the value of the mortgage on the property. All right. Now, we have to look at the equity side, which is basically the income that the property is generating in terms of the cash flows that it's throwing off, okay, to the equity investor. All right? So, in this case, I'm going to have to give you, what those cash flows are, but let's just say, okay, for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5, the cash flows are 83.33, 98.33, 11.378, 12.969, and 14.608. Okay, so those are just simply your operating cash flows after you've paid your debt service, which would be basically probably before tax cash flows, okay?
So is that CF 0?
And you're going to have, obviously you're going to start out with, yes, 0 is your initial cash flow. But, okay, let me finish, all right? The resale value is going to happen at the end of the 5th year. And one of the things that you're going to have to do is find out what the mortgage balance is on this mortgage after 5 years. So if you kind of go back up here, you're going to have to do the 1 input, 60, shift, amortize, equal, 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 and what you should get as the mortgage balance is around $305,495, roughly. Okay? So, what I was just about to say was sale price at end of year 5 is going to be $526,945 minus the $305,495 balance, meaning the actual cash flow that you're going to generate would be $221,450.
So what do you get? Where did you get 526?
I'm giving you that.
Yeah.
It's a sale price. I'm giving it to you. Any number up here, I'm giving it to you. Okay? All right. Now, so what you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to add the $221,450, okay, to that final cash flow. All right? And you're going to use a 12% discount rate and solve for present value. Whatever answer you get for that is now going to be the value of your equity. You're going to add those two numbers together. That is the total value of the property. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, once again, this is going to be 1 payment per year. All right, and then all these are going to be cash flows. I got 165, 565, 30. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to take the 336, 395, 96 plus the 165, 565, 30, add them together. So this is our mortgage value, this is our equity value, and this is going to be the overall present value for the mortgage equity capitalization. Okay, 336, 395, 96. So we should end up with an overall value for the property of 501, 961, 26. Okay, so all this is doing is, once again, it's valuing the debt piece of the property and it's valuing the equity piece of the property, merging them together to create an overall value for the property. That's all we're doing, okay? So the debt piece is strictly made up of what is the mortgage value and figuring out, once again, what your payments are going to be for that. And then after you've done that, then you're going to be given what the operating cash flows from the property are for the equity side. This is going to be the cash flow the investor will be receiving from their equity contributions. And then adding that to basically the net after you subtracted out the balance of the loan, basically from the resale price of the property, and then taking that, adding it to the mortgage value, so the overall value for the property to you is 501,961.26. However, what that means is that is, in one sense, probably the minimum value that you would probably sell the property for, okay? You're actually selling it for more than that, at 526,945, but at least to you, this is the value of the property, okay? It's very, very straightforward. Yep.
I'm trying to do it on a calculator, I'm having a hard time getting that number.
Which number?
Well, I mean, the 165.
Okay, once again, it's gonna be one payment per year, 0 is your initial cash flow, 833.33, so forth, so on. Add these two together to equal 12% soft present value.
Is it net
It's
present value?
Yeah.
And,
Well, yeah, NPV.
yeah, SPV is zero.
Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, sorry.
Ooh, okay, that's.
All right.
So it's chip.
Yep. Okay. All right, that does that. Let's now give you that quiz. So I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.